Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni mili wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all your family and friends, your kids' teachers, principals, and librarians about the show. And please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Audible, Good Pods, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast. Our guests today, Tanisia Moore and Lynn Lockman. They're here to celebrate Filmmakers 15 Groundbreaking Women Directors. Before we invite Lynn and Tanisia into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by Why Should I Climb This Tree by Ryan Hogan. A young boy can't understand why climbing a tree would be any fun, or why it would be a good use of his time. His father, a veteran of climbing trees, is determined to show his son why it matters so much. This story is accessible to all ages, accompanied by wildly colorful and evocative illustrations. Why Should I Climb This Tree could be the antidote for the impediments delivered to our children from excessive use of digital screens and social media. In other words, it's a great way to get them outside and off their screens, help them appreciate and fall in love with nature. More importantly, help them fall in love with nature with you. Check it out today. Why Should I Climb This Tree by Ryan Hogan. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is also brought to you by Dear Libby, where you answer my questions about friendship, written by Dear Libby herself, Libby Kisner. Is your child lonely? A recent study of over 2,000 people aged 12 to 18 found that teens who experience loneliness are at a greater risk of leaving school with lower grades than young people who don't feel lonely. The findings also suggest that without the right support, loneliness can increase their risk of developing other problems, including mental health difficulties. And Dear Libby, will you answer my questions about friendship? Trusted 15-year columnist Libby Kisner offers a breakthrough approach to friendship. This hands-on guide for dealing with everyday friendship struggles faced by teens will help guide your child towards flourishing friendships and vibrant self-expression in every stage of life. I mean, this is a book that can be read and reread at any age. It definitely deserves a place in your family library. Dear Libby, will you answer my questions about friendship by Libby Kisner? Join us right now are the co-authors of a really fun book. It's called Filmmakers, 15 Groundbreaking Women Directors. First, please welcome from New York City, New York, Lynn Lockman. Hey, Lynn, how are you?
I'm doing fine, and you?
I'm wonderful. I'm really excited to speak to you and also to our other guest coming to us from Birmingham, Alabama, Tanisia Moore. Hey, Tanisia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. So excited. Tanisia, can you start by telling us what's up with Filmmakers? Tell us a little bit about this book.
Wow. Okay. So Filmmakers, kind of like a passion project for Lynn and myself. I, by trade, am an attorney. And so when we came together about the book, initially, we were, talk to me about Ava Duvernay, which is one of the directors that we cover in the book, just kind of because it kind of coincides with what I do as far as the legal field. And so Filmmakers is talking about 15 contemporary women directors who are shaking up the industry as we know it, telling stories that probably wouldn't otherwise be told. And so that's the purpose behind the book, is to just really show young people these amazing women and hopefully inspire them to tell their own stories as well and use these women as inspiration in their guide.
Yeah. Lynn, I'm curious, how did an author in New York City connect with an attorney down in Birmingham to create this project?
We had the same agent, Jackie Lipton, who was then with Ravenquill Literary Agency, and she approached us because she had some other authors who were writing books in this series. And she asked me if I had an idea of a topic I'd like to write about. And I said women directors, because I watch a lot of movies and my tastes really run to the indie movies and international films. I'm also a translator, so I'm particularly interested in seeing films in languages other than English, and a lot of them are in subtitles. So that's how I got involved with it. And then I knew T because our agent had regular meetings, and I knew she was an attorney, and Ava Duvernay is one of my favorite filmmakers. So I mentioned to Jackie, I said, yeah, maybe T would be interested in this too, because she has legal background.
Yeah. Well, what about that, Tanisia? What's the connection between your legal background and the being knowledgeable about women directors?
So for me, I do what I call the fluffy side of law. So I do trademarks, copyrights, contracts. So I do a lot of IP work. So you are doing that in publishing. You're doing that when you are filmmaking and stuff. So you're that's tied into what I do. And so as far as with Ava, I mean, in law school, one of the classes you have to take is constitutional law. So she did a documentary on the 13th Amendment. And, you know, she does a lot of more social justice type of movies or things in that nature. And so for me, there was that connection there just with that legal background. But also, like I said, just what I do day to day, I'm dealing with creatives myself. And so it was really right up my alley to do a book like this, doing filmmakers, because this is what I do on a regular basis. This is like I said, the happier side of the law, that I get to practice. And so it just was really natural for me. And it just actually sparked like joy in me, and kind of, I did some filmmaking myself on this project, and, you know, connected and did some shorts and kind of got in my creative bag myself. So it was a lot of fun. I was inspired myself.
It really sounds really fun. The happy side of law until somebody says, "Oh, you stole my idea."
Yeah, and then that's a different side of law. And I refer those people out. That's still, that doesn't make me happy.
Lynn, tell me, who is out of the 15 women directors that you're featuring, who's your favorite?
Well, I mean, the first one that I thought of when we were approached was Ava Duvernay. But the other one that is my favorite is Aneshka Holland, who is a filmmaker. She was born in Poland. And she's made a lot of historical films, which really attracts me because in addition to being a translator, I also write historical fiction. And she has 3 films that were set during World War II and during the Holocaust. She has a recent film, recent being, I guess, the last 3 years or so, that focuses on the Holodomor, the terror famine that the Soviet Union perpetrated against Ukraine in the 1930s, and has suddenly become very relevant because of the Russian invasion and the fact that they are still stealing Ukraine's grain and starving its people. And the other thing is she has this amazing range, because in addition to her historical work, she directed an eco-thriller called, in English, the title is Spore, that is the work of, it's an adaptation of a novel by Olga Tokarczuk, who is a Nobel Prize winning writer, also from Poland. And she has directed a number of TV series and directed the pilot of the long-running TV series Treme, as well as episodes of The Wire and House of Cards.
That's a pretty impressive resume.
Yes.
Yeah. Tanisia, I'm guessing that we wouldn't have a book called Filmmakers, 15 Groundbreaking Women Directors unless there were historical barriers that prevented women from becoming directors. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So statistically, women directors or just women in the film industry is still pretty low. And we're talking behind the scenes, not necessarily on the camera. And so there's a report out by San Diego State University that they do. I do not want to get the numbers. Math and I do not always get along. But we'll say it is less than 20% of the blockbuster movies that were out last year for 21. I want to say the number was at about 12%, which was down from the 16 that they had in 2020. So women directors are just women in the film industry on the behind the scenes, behind the camera, are still facing barriers because it's still a male dominated industry. Mm-hmm. And so when you have a woman, have a director taking the lead, she's able to diversify everybody, not only just the cast who will be starring in the movies, but from the gaffer, from the production assistant, from the, first assistant director to makeup. She can help bring in people who otherwise wouldn't be able to get that type of experience. Mm-hmm. And of course, when you're talking just not only being a woman, but a woman of color, they're going to face their own barriers. You're getting financing from the studio to even greenlight a film, can be very hard to do. For example, one of the women we profiled was Gina Prince Bythewood, and there was a movie called Beyond the Lights, and I love that movie. And she had a hard time getting studios, even Love and Basketball, even before it became Love and Basketball, she had a hard time getting people to support the film because it was too quiet. It didn't have enough pizzazz. And so it was like, trying to still fit, African Americans in a stereotype when, hey, we can have this quiet movie and people will still resonate with it because it's still a love story. And she just wanted to tell a love story. And so women are still facing barriers when it comes to getting financing for the film, getting, just really good help. So I want to say I also read that back in the 30s, that actually becoming a director as a woman was a viable job for a woman to have. And so there's talk about that when they were doing the silent film era, that you had more women behind the scene doing the work. And then slowly just kind of shifted to what we see now. So we're come a long way, but there's still a lot more that we can do, especially when we're talking about mainstream films and not just indie projects, getting women out there with blockbusters. So we're seeing that now. Gina Prince Bythewood has a movie coming out with Viola Davis next month called The Woman King. Regina King, I believe she just also wrapped up production on another film. So still getting out there, but still a ways to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. One of the things that I'm happy that you mentioned is the fact that you acknowledged that there's a whole lot of people behind the scenes working, mm-hmm. and it's a great industry. My daughter is in the music business, and when
bless her.
yes. Most people have no idea that when their favorite band rolls into town and the 4 or 5 people are up on stage, they think, okay, that's it. And when mm-hmm. in reality, there's 3 or 4 busloads of technicians and others who make that tour possible.
Right. Well, those are the people who are that's really who's making the films, mm-hmm. right? And that's people, like you said, with the band members. If it wasn't for lighting, if it wasn't for someone bringing snacks mm-hmm. so that you don't, be hungry on the set, like all those little nuances, if you don't have those people in place, you really don't have a film. So it doesn't matter who's the name, who's the big blockbuster actor on here or actress, if we don't have a camera person, if we don't have a gaffer, someone to hold the mic or, fix the makeup, touch up the hair, or just any of the things. There's so many people. Like I watch now the credits at the, the end of a film now. Marvel's famous for having long credits, but then I think about all these people who get to benefit, from, this movie mm-hmm. and who are getting to feed their families because of this particular production. And I think that really does get lost, and working on a book like this kind of helped reminded me that it's so much more. And even as a business owner, I know that too. Like I can't do this by myself. I'm only as good as my team is. Mm-hmm. And so I think even with the directors, that's what it is. They're only as good as their team is.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with this little podcast here, you know, people, it's more than me here in my basement studio. I have assistants and interns and lots of people that I contract with who help put all this together.
Right.
Lynn,
and I'd like to just shout out also the researchers and the writers who do this. I mean, for instance, Greta Gerwig has made her name as a director, but she originally wanted to be a writer, a screenwriter. And she was turned down by every single Masters of Fine Arts program, every graduate program that she applied to. So she came in through acting and was mentored by writers and directors, and many of them were women directors who inspired her to direct her own films. And now, even though the graduate programs turned her down, she has 2 Academy Award nominations for both Best Original Screenplay and Best Adapted Screenplay.
good for her.
Yes, she's awesome.
I love those stories. Lynn, one of the things that it seems kind of crazy to me, you know, Tanisia was sharing with us that the number of women directing films, especially the big blockbusters in Hollywood, it's minuscule. However, Hollywood has this reputation for being ultra woke, to coin a phrase that people misuse. It's like, hey, we are here and we're all for you, but no, we're not going to let the women direct these movies. That it seems a little bit crazy to me, Lynn.
Yes, and it is a problem. And, you know, there's a lot of rhetoric of being socially aware that's not backed up in reality. And we saw that, for instance, with the Me Too scandals about 5-6 years ago. And some of the women in this book were directly affected. And one in particular we have 15 filmmakers that we focus on, but we also have special boxes that in sidebars of other filmmakers that we talk about. And several of those that were in sidebars had their careers derailed because of the Me Too situation. And they came forward during that time and said that they had been abused.
And then were punished for it.
And they were punished for it. Or they became so disillusioned that they left. There was one in particular, Sarah Pali, who started out acting and basically quit acting because she had been abused.
That's horrific. Just horrific. I'm wondering, Tanisia, other than introducing readers to these phenomenal artists and storytellers, what do you hope families reading this book together will get from the experience?
So my hope for families as they're reading this book, you know, with their little person or their little big person is that, one, that there is a career in the arts. There's a conversation going on Twitter with a couple of friends, and they were talking about how for some of us who are first generation college students, we took like these safe career paths, you know, and growing up, I didn't know an author made money, could actually have a career in writing or anything like that. And I went to undergrad as a journalism major. I'm focusing on radio. I wanted to be an on-air radio personality, and, you know, student loans said no. We can't do that. Not at $9 an hour. So, you know, you try to become sensible. So the next simple thing is become a lawyer. And so as I'm reading this book, writing this book, and I'm learning about these women and the barriers that they face and the no's and the rejections that they face. And for example, Issa Rae, even though she went to Stanford, which is one of, you know, a really great university in the country, and she is now like an 8-figure woman out here in the industry. Like, she is doing amazing. And you think about, you know, that like when we're told as children, like, you need to be a doctor, you need to be this. And I have a Caribbean background. My dad's Jamaican. So, doctor, lawyer, engineer, teacher, like, it has to be something reasonable. And so I hope as families are reading this is that they'll be open-minded, that this is a possibility. And yes, like any other career, there'll be yeses, there'll be nos, there'll be down seasons, there'll be all these things, but there's so many other things within that industry that you can do in the meantime, that you can do to, because you have to live. But until you get to that blockbuster, till you reach that pinnacle, whatever that may be, hey, you can still do this. Like, be open-minded. I love that my daughter wants to be an author because she sees me doing it. And so, and I can tell her this and she's not discouraged, and I don't have to say, no, you're going to go be a doctor or you're going to go be a firewoman. Like, she can be that. And so that's what I'm hoping, families, as they're reading this book, as they're learning about it. Yes, the journeys are amazing, but really I'm hoping that the kids get to be inspired. Mm-hmm. And if they have a story that they want to tell, whether it's through film, through writing, through creating actual art, that the parents or their caregivers would be supportive of the vision and, kind of nurture that as well.
Yeah.
The other thing is that the technology that's available, that anybody can use this technology, and filmmaking is accessible. And one of the women that I write about, Lulu Wong, shows she made a short film just using an iPhone. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is something that young people can do with their parents and their friends.
Yeah. 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 That's one of the crazy things. I had this experience once, Lynn. Back in 1989, I wrote and produced and starred in a disabilities awareness video. And it cost us $50,000 or $60,000 to have 3 cameras shoot a live stage show. And then fast forward 15, 20 years, and I'm performing a magic show in an urban playground. And I looked up, and there are 20 cameras shooting 20 kids with their cameras shooting my show. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. Let's talk about how the world has changed so much.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of
technology,
I have to ask this, Lynn. I hope you don't mind me asking, but I'm through the magic of technology that we're just celebrating, I am able to look into your space, and I am looking at you and your wonderful smile, but I'm also looking at the most interesting background. It looks like you have an entire city behind you. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on behind you?
Oh, that's my Lego town. I have have been building since 2007, building by building, a Lego town that I call Little Brick Township. And it has a whole lot of different buildings in it. Many of them are originally Lego sets that I have built according to the instructions, others that I have modified, and some are just my original builds.
Wow. It looks fantastic. It looks like I don't know about you, Tanisia, it looks like a town I would like to stroll through.
Absolutely. I love talking to Lynn on FaceTime for that reason.
And one of the things I have is a Lego Cinema, and I don't use the movie posters that they came with. I have my own movie posters, including one that I printed out and put on the Lego Cinema for Ava Duvernay's Selma.
Wow, that's wonderful. Hey, since you brought it up, is there any hope that somehow filmmakers, 15 groundbreaking women directors, will find its way into the cinemas?
That would be cool. I shared earlier that I did some shorts on the women who I profiled and put a little spin on them, put a little mommy spin on each of them. And they actually should be finished at the end of September, October. And so hopefully we'll be able to premiere them to kind of go along, with the book. Mm-hmm. And hopefully, who knows, maybe some of these ladies will see them. And maybe they'll come talk to us. We're hoping. So fingers are crossed and toes and all that good stuff. But no, it was really exciting to do that, just to kind of write the script and, film it and and worked with friends and family, even got my kids involved. We did a fun episode of Scandal with the kids on the scandal of the missing cookies from the cookie jar. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. And my oldest played Olivia Pope, and it was a lot of fun. And my middle baby played Madam President, and my baby boy, we had him play Cyrus. So
that's awesome.
And got some of their friends together. So it was a lot of fun. So yeah, so who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe.
Well, we'll keep our eyes open for that. In the meantime, I know people are going to want to know where they can go to find out more about the book and also more about both of you. So, Lynn, can you start us? Where can we go to find out more about you?
Well, the best place to go, and it also has pictures of my Lego town, and in some of my blog, it's my blog and website, www.lynnmillerlockman.com, and that's
LYNMILLERLACHMANN.com.
And some of the, I talk about this book in some of my blog posts, and I also talk, as I said, the Lego Town. I give instructions on how I built some of the creations inside it.
Yeah, awesome. And Tanisia, where can people go to find out more about you and maybe find out how they can come to you for fluffy law advice?
So, if you need fluffy law advice, you can find me at morelegalsolutions.com. And there you'll see me and my law partner on the website. So morelegalsolutions.com. And then if you want to just learn more about me and just kind of come into my world, it's TanisiaMoore.com, and Tanisia is without an H, so it's TANISIAMOORE.com. And there you can find out about what other projects I'm working on. I have a podcast that I do, a biweekly podcast called On the Other Side of Momming, because there's more to this mom life. And there I get together with friends or just record by myself and just talk about motherhood and just how we're navigating motherhood and raising our little people and doing all types of fun things. But it's really just a conversation where friends are talking and just those conversations that we probably normally have on the phone. And we're just recording it out loud, giving voice and hopefully inspiration to other fellow mamas out here.
Awesome. We've had a really fun time speaking to the authors of Filmmakers, 15 Groundbreaking Women Directors. And our guests have been Tanisia Moore and Lynn Miller Lockman. My friends, thank you so very much for being with us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Ashley Novoselsky. She's a behavioral specialist who'll be here to celebrate her picture book. It's called Frustrated Fred. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guests, Tanisia Moore and Lynn Miller Lockman. Please be sure to check out Filmmakers, 15 Groundbreaking Women Directors. Also want to thank our sponsors, Why Should I Climb This Tree by Ryan Hogan. Great picture book by Ryan Hogan. And also, Dear Libby, Will You Answer My Questions About Friendship by Libby Kisner. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Nicole Belcastro, Mirabella Q. Want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.